Good evening. Tonight's edition of Storytime is scary stories. So, if you're going to be scared, don't listen. Tonight, we will read from a selection of 3 different books, real life scary things in my face by the same author. His name is Carl Zimmer. A Planet of Viruses, Parasite Rex, and Microcosm. Now, all these books are great books. They don't all have scary stuff, but we're just going to highlight the scary stuff this evening. Let's start with parasites. Let's have a look. Called Onchocerca. These animals, male and female, spend their 10-year-long lives in nodules, making thousands of babies. The babies then leave and travel within the skin in hope that they'll get taken up by the bite of a black fly. If the black fly's gut, then they can mature to the next stage and the insect can inject them into the skin of a new host. In the new host, the babies will swim through to trigger a violent attack within the immune system. Rather than kill the parasite, though, the immune system puts a rash of leopard spots of skins all over the host. The rash can get so itchy, people may scratch themselves to death. When worms wander through the outer layers of the eyes, the immune system's scarring can leave a person blind. Can you imagine that? Scratching yourself to death, and then worms are crawling out your eyes. This ain't no science fiction. This is the stuff that can happen for real. Since their larvae are aquatic, black flies tend to stay around water, and the disease has thus earned the name river blindness. This is something that is not as popular now, but it's still a thing. So that was the first one that we'll look at. The next one we'll look at will come from Microcosm. It's actually a really good book. It's a book about E-Coli. The entire book about E-Coli. But today, because it's Scary Story Edition, we're just going to focus on the creepy stuff, the bad strain that you may have heard of. Let's have a listen. The decision to make the toxin lies within a virus. The virus can trigger E. coli L157H7. It produces the toxin in times of stress, which is one reason why doctors generally don't prescribe antibiotics for an infection of E. coli L157H7. The drug triggers the viruses to escape their hosts, turning what might have been an unpleasant bout of bloody diarrhea into a potentially lethal organ failure, particularly kidneys. It is as much a victim of the virus as we are. Even if viruses have killed him, E. coli may be in your system and release all of these different symptoms. And as they do, they are going to cause many different things to take place that can be very problematic. They can cause different areas within your intestine to raise up. They can cause bloody scars to sear through to allow a little bit of seepage. Then you can't control it. It gets to your kidneys, spreads to other areas. You might be dehydrated. The scars feel as if they're like you've been stabbed multiple times. That is the impact and power of E. coli 015787. Most of them are good, just that one strain. And yes, I know we should read this whole book, shouldn't we? Actually, we'll just stick to one particular, which hopefully no one will ever, ever, ever come into contact with. Hopefully we've moved on past it. Over the past 3,000 years, smallpox may have killed more people than any disease on Earth. Ancient physicians were well aware of smallpox because its symptoms were so clear and distinct. The victim became infected when the virus slipped into the airway. After a week or so, the infection brought chills, a blazing fever, and agonizing aches. The fever ebbed after a few days, but the virus was far from done. Red spots developed inside of the mouth of victims, then the face, then over the rest of the body. The spots filled with pus. So you know that stuff that's on top of your zits, your blackheads. Imagine that, much more massive. And imagine those inside of your mouth. About a third of people who got smallpox eventually died. In the survivors, scabs covered over pustules, which left behind deep, permanent scars. Some 3,500 years ago, smallpox left its first recorded trace on humanity. 3 mummies from ancient Egypt, studded with pustules, so they could still see the evidence of the scarring on these mummies. Years later, that they had this around at that time as well. Many of the oldest centers of civilization in the old world, from China to India to ancient Greece, felt the wrath of the virus. In 430 BC, an epidemic of smallpox swept through Athens, not Georgia, Athens, Greece, killed a quarter of the Athenian army and a large percentage of the city's population. In the Middle Ages, crusaders returning from the Middle East brought smallpox to Europe. Each time the virus arrived in a new defenseless population, the effects were devastating. In 1241, smallpox came first to Iceland, where it promptly killed 20,000 of the island's 70,000 residents. Smallpox became well established in the old world as cities grew, providing a high density of potential hosts. Between 1400 and 1800, smallpox killed an estimated 500 million people every century in Europe alone. Its victims included Tsar Peter II of Russia, Queen Mary II of England, and Emperor Joseph I of Austria. It was not until Columbus's arrival in the New World that Native Americans got their first exposure to the virus. The Europeans unwittingly brought a biological weapon with them that gave the invaders a brutal advantage over their opponents. With no immunity whatsoever to smallpox, Native Americans died in droves when they were exposed to the virus. In Central America, over 90% of the native population is believed to have died of smallpox in the decades following the arrival of Spanish conquistadors in the early 1500s. Talk about scarce. Now, fortunately, we were able to come up with a vaccine to rid and eradicate smallpox from the world, other than in a few disease center locations. Hopefully, we'll have a similar success story on our hands in the near future. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Scary Stories. We might pull one of these out again later on. There's plenty of other great scary science stories to share. I hope you're having fun. Have a great night. Enjoy your weekend.